I think what would be very valuable for the implementation on the robotics side of things is to start looking at workflows in their entirety and understanding how robots should be interacting with that workflow. Looking 3 to 5 years down the line when robots should be starting to be leveraged more on the job site. I think the main way of being able to adopt it is by having these workflows implemented. Otherwise, there's upstream and downstream implications of injecting a robot into one particular part of that workflow. Since we do not self-perform, we need to work with our trade partners to be able to coordinate the leveraging of, for example, a layout robot, which is one company and one business model that I have to pay for. Then the next portion of that is looking perhaps with the installation of the studs, and that is another completely different method. And the final portion is the actual drywall installation and the finishing of that drywall. So I have to engage three to four different companies or methods to be able to implement 2 different robots on my job site. I would love to see something that would go all the way from layout to wall finish, and seeing an ecosystem built that can handle that whole thing, because that lowers my risk because it's one entity that I'm dealing with, and increases my adaptability because it's also one thing that I'm dealing with, one platform that I'm dealing with. Might be several robots doing that type of work, but it's one platform. And the business model could be RaaS, it could be us buying the robot. There's different ways of rolling it out. But my interaction as a GC to engage with that robotic solution and reap the rewards would be more valuable to me as a workflow, an end-to-end trade. I think the total addressable market will be the entire industry. I don't think that we're going to see the human aspect ever evaporate. I think there's always going to be humans involved, even with robotic operations. But I think the role is going to be changing and evolving based off of it. I definitely see humans being an observer of robotic work and then coming in and doing things that humans might be doing best. I don't think that the highly repetitive tasks are what we're going to be focusing on. I think it might be the edge cases and the 20% that is not covered by these robots and the inevitable inaccuracies that happen in construction. I think that's what we should be continuing to handle, but I think that'll be happening simultaneously while the robots are operating. And the way that we're interacting with it is almost symbiotic, and keeping the folks that are going to be using it in mind and how they're going to be using it in mind. And if you're focusing on adoption, it makes it something that people on the field cannot live without. And the adoption curve to learn how to use one of these robots is relatively small and allows anybody that's entering into the business to learn fairly quickly. I think that's where you're sitting on some gold.